Hey guys, I'm Joe Stillwell, and this is the Rebels Advocate. I'm back again. Today's video is going to be a little different. It's going to be a little difficult, but that's okay. I didn't start this channel to talk about easy topics. I wanted to talk about things that are a little more difficult to talk about. And as of this recording, I don't know when I'll upload this, but as of this recording, it's 2 days after the events that took place in Charlottesville. We basically had neo-Nazis and KKK and whatever you want to call them marching down the streets. Tragic event. There was a couple state troopers killed, a woman killed, other people injured. It's just, not a very good thing. I started to record a video yesterday, and I didn't get around to it, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. I think it would have been more of a curse-filled rant, and hopefully we can. I was pretty angry yesterday, but I think I've calmed down some, and I decided I really don't want to talk about so much what happened yesterday or 2 days ago as far as what happened there, as I want to talk about the underlying kind of the cause, what started the protest to begin with, and which is a touchy subject around here. Right off the bat, I just want to say this isn't a finger pointing video. I really don't. This is not the time to point fingers at. We can say this is the far right or this is whatever, but it's not the time to point fingers at one side or the other. It's the time for those of us that are reasonable on either side to come together and say, no matter what we disagree on, this can't stand. This doesn't happen here. We're not going to put up with it. But this video is more, I want to talk about these monuments and the flag itself, the Confederate flag, and I'm going to refer to it as a Confederate flag. I know some people go, that's not the official flag, actually, blah, blah, blah. But I think when we say Confederate flag, we all know which flag we're talking about. And this is a hot button topic, and it has been for a long time around here. I live here in Virginia, and for a lot of people in the South, anytime you start talking about the Confederate flag, or you start talking about these monuments, of Confederate soldiers or generals or whatever it may be. I think in Charlottesville it was the, Robert E. Lee monument, I do believe. I'm pretty sure there's pictures of me as a kid, in front of that monument. I spent a lot of time in Charlottesville growing up, and there's this growing feeling that when you start taking these things down, you're taking away our heritage and you're trying to erase history. And that's a little bit of what I want to talk about. And first of all, like I said, this isn't a finger pointing video. I want you to know that the argument I'm going to make is on the opposite side of what I once was on. And because this has been a pretty big, anybody that knows me will understand why this is a pretty, this topic hits close to home. And I'll try to explain that. I'm going to tell you a little story about me. We got to go way back. You may have noticed this channel is called the Rebels Advocate, And here I am, I live in the South, the rebel, what does that mean? Where did that come from? Well, it turns out that actually was my nickname growing up was Rebel. Rebel Joe. Most people call me Rebel. Now, why do they do that? Even today, I'm 37 years old. My best friend, the best man at my wedding, when he sees me, he doesn't call me Joe. He calls me Rebel. And the reason for that, we got to go way back in time. When I was just a kid, I've told you before, I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian household and went to a private school, a Christian school that's fundamentalist Christian. And one of the things that we did there in the school, on the graduation was we had our kindergarten and high school graduation, the seniors, at kind of the same time. Like you do the kindergarten graduation once it's over, then the senior graduation. And the kindergarten graduation, we put on this big skit, and there'd be like 4 or 5 kids, of each, like the kindergartners and then of the seniors. It was a very small school, and so the kindergartners would put on this skit and sing songs and do these little plays, which I thought were amazing back then. I wanted all my family to come. I was like, they're going to be blown away, and I'm sure it's probably hard to sit through. But then the high school graduation for the seniors was a little different. It was more serious, but they still put on a production. It was a big church. They had a choir director that was really good, and so a lot of times, like the ones I remember that stood out to me when I was a kid, is they would do these like really patriotic, and like they would have these they'd usually 2 guys would come in the back, like they were high schoolers, and they'd both have a flag. One would have the Christian flag, they would have the American flag. They'd have it over their shoulder, and they would march slowly, like up each aisle, and come together with the flags. Kind of a very military-esque kind of a march, slow march. And I just, as a kid, I loved that. Like anything to do with the military, I just ate it up. And then they would sing songs, and they would, dim the lights, and they'd have a big slideshow, and they would show like, soldiers coming home, and just, soldiers overseas, or, whatever, and they would sing like God Bless America, and all, it was so, just a patriotic show. And I'm not real sure why they did that for the high school graduations, but it was, as a kid, I loved it. I ate it up. And so one year after such a performance, I was singing like all those patriotic songs just for weeks, before and after the graduation. And one day I'm home and I'm in my room, and I'm digging through a closet, and I come across a box. And in that box was a bunch of my dad's stuff, and I dug in it. It's like stuff that my dad had from like when he was younger, and I see this flag in the bottom, and I pull it out, and it's a cloth flag, and it's old, kind of stained and a little bit, and it was some sort of American flag, like an older version of American flag. I wasn't sure what it was. What it turned out to be, it was a Confederate flag. I was too young to even know what that was, but I was just thrilled with it because, I was so infatuated with the flag and with anything patriotic. So I run in the living room with a flag, and I'm like, hey, I begged my dad, can I have this flag? And he's like, sure, you can have it. And so I love that flag. And the next morning I wake up, I run outside, I'm out there playing, and I go in the woods, and I find me a big long stick, and I hooked that flag to it. I tied it off somehow onto the stick, and I draped it, this big stick, over my shoulder with that flag, and I marched, through the front yard singing God Bless America, to the top of my lungs. And of course, little did I know, my uncle, who has a farm beside him, was up on the hill, and he saw the whole thing later. He saw me somewhere and was like, boy, that was some awful good singing you was doing. And I was embarrassed. But anyway, I had no idea when I found that flag that was going to change my life, like, in a way. It kind of, because finding that flag would define my persona growing up, because I become infatuated with it, and eventually I found out what kind of flag it was, and I learned about the Civil War, and then I just became infatuated with that. Like, I wanted to learn more and more about the Civil War and what happened. And then I'm like, well, what side were we on? We're on Virginia. Boy, we just barely got under that Mason-Dixon line, but we were one of the most important states there, It's like, ooh. And so I was Southern all the way, and we were the underdog, It was a true underdog story. So I had a lot of pride in that. you know, even as just a little kid, there was a slavery thing, and that's hard to deal with, right? But then I had a teacher who he taught history, and one of the things he would teach about the Civil War, and he was, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times, he was one of those that was very emphatic that slavery had very little to do with the Civil War. Matter of fact, if you heard him talk, you know, you'd almost think it had nothing to do with it. And he was always telling us how, you know, slavery is going to be done away with in the South anyway. It didn't matter, you know, new technology, new farming equipment, we were going to be done with slavery, as if, you know, no big deal. You know, after we got enough farming equipment, we'd free the slaves anyway, just, you know, because, hey, we don't really need you anymore. And so I kind of bought that because it fit my narrative. You know, it made me feel good, and now I can feel good about being proud of being a rebel, you know, a Confederate. And there's just something about being a rebel, right? You know, I like that. And so I identified with the rebel flag, and it kind of become my thing, you know. And I know if you live in the South, you see, you know, Confederate flags everywhere. So you would think just, you know, some kid, hillbilly in the hills of Virginia, you know, with a Confederate flag, that wouldn't stick out that much. But for some reason it did, because I always kind of went overboard with stuff. And I've become known as the guy who had rebel flag everything. I wanted my hat to have a rebel flag, my shirt to have a rebel flag. I wanted a rebel flag. Every time if I found a rebel flag out, I wanted to buy it. It become my thing. For some reason, it become part of my identity. Before long, that's what people started calling me. You know, Rebel Joe, and it stuck. And as I grew up, you know, it stuck to me. And this is a little bit like my last video I made. You know, where I made that video, Apologies from a Former Bigot. Except this is a little different, because I don't, you know, in that video I was talking about how I was so bigoted towards gay people and whatnot. And this video is like, again, I want to apologize, but at the same time, like, I really don't think my heart was in the wrong place. I don't think I was a racist. You know, I don't feel like that was it, yet still it led me to do some stupid things. And I want to show you guys something, and this hurts. Like, I hate to show you this, especially in light of everything that's going on, but I want you to know me. I want you to know the real me and who I am and how I grew up. And so I ended up getting a tattoo, and just to show you, this became a big part of me, became a big part of my identity. And boy, let me tell you, do I ever regret this right here. I regret it so much, and I hope one day I have enough money to do something about it. You know, I don't know. I've talked to my wife about it. I really want to do something and cover it up. And it's just, especially today, like, you know, I feel like there was a time where, I know this is going to sound horrible, but in my eyes, like, the flag, I really didn't feel like it represented that so much. You know, I really didn't feel like it represented hate. It represented bigotry. You know, I didn't feel like it's heritage, not hate. And I preach that a lot. But I'll tell you a couple reasons why I don't like this tattoo anymore, and why I don't want anything to do with this flag anymore. Number one is, there's been a few times I've been out in public, and never once have I had anyone come up to me and just, you know, jump onto me over having this. Never once. However, there's been times when I've been out and I've seen a family of African American, and I'll see that look, and I can see the eye contact when they see that. Say if I'm wearing shorter sleeves or whatever, and I see that look. It's almost kind of a look of pain, or maybe a look of disgust, or different people. It's just, and I feel so ashamed. I feel embarrassed, and it makes me mad because I want to run up to him and be like, no, I'm not like that, but it doesn't, and I know people are going to say, whatever, you can't, this flag doesn't mean that, what have you, but the second reason is the other people. On occasion, I've had people see this tattoo, and they come up to me and they're like, I love that tattoo. And then they'll start talking and they'll start spewing a bunch of just racist crap. And apparently, when they see this, and they think that automatically means I'm one of them, so they can say whatever. And that really got me thinking as well. Like, what does this flag stand for? And maybe to you it doesn't, but man, it has been hijacked to the point, and let's be clear, no, I'm not going to say it's been hijacked. It's not like this flag had a good meaning before. It didn't. Forget that. And like, besides that, it didn't. This flag has no good. There's no good meaning behind this. You don't need a flag to represent your history or your heritage. You don't need a flag to be proud of where you live. So you're proud to live in the South. That's great. That's wonderful. You need a flag for that? To tell people you're proud of that? No. This flag, it represents an army that fought for slavery. I don't, you can be like, no, it was more about states' rights. It was about this. It was about that. But it represents a flag that, the flag represents, a time when we thought slavery was okay. We thought it was so okay, we were willing to fight our brothers and sisters to defend that right, to own other human beings. And now those people, they live here. They're Americans. They're as American as anyone else in this country. And then you want to throw those symbols up in front of them and remind them that, hey, you come from a line of people that we thought it was okay to own. And do you think that's okay? Do you feel good about that? And now we get to these monuments, and like in Charlottesville, you got the General Robert E. Lee monument, I think it is, that they're taking down. And like I said, I'm sure that there's pictures of me on that monument. I used to, I love that monument, but now they're taking it down. And the thing, people shout, they're trying to take away our history. They're erasing our history. We don't, it's not erasing history. Have you ever heard of Hitler? Do you think that Germany needs statues of Hitler to remember who Hitler was and what he did? Oh, well, if we don't have statues, monuments of Hitler, we might forget what happened. No, you don't need that. Why should we prop up these men as heroes who, let's face it, this is hard to say as a Southerner, as somebody who grew up, but basically as traitors to America. Southern people tend to be the most patriotic people. They act like the most patriotic people, yet we want to praise the biggest traitors of all time, right? it's maybe we're the ones that need the history lesson. And we're crying about they're they're trying to take away our history. You know, what are they going to do? Change history? Taking down a monument doesn't erase history, guys. And like, think about what you're fighting for, and and think about the side you've ended up on. And so, because of these monuments, this is why KKK and neo-Nazis and all these white supremacists flock to Charlottesville to march. And this is why it's such a hot button topic right now. And this is why a lot of friends that I have are really tiptoeing around this subject. And this is really difficult for them because now, if they stand up and say something against these white supremacists, then basically they're standing up against someone who's marching for what they believe in. As far as the monuments, they don't want the monuments to go down either. Trust me. That's a big topic around here. Everybody thinks we got to keep those monuments up, and now, so that makes it a really difficult situation. But think of what are you really fighting for? What good are those monuments? That's what I want to ask you. Like, think about it. Like, what good are they really? Like, why? Like, we have our history. We know what happened. It's not a good one. I don't want monuments erected celebrating, what we did to Native Americans. I know that history. I can read about that history. I don't think it should be celebrated. And I don't think we should celebrate a time when, Americans fought against other Americans for something as horrific as slavery. Yeah, sure, there were other reasons, right? But you don't sit here and try to act like slavery had nothing to do with this war. You're kidding yourself. And it's just, like I said, this is a difficult situation and topic. I know, and I've been on the other side of it. I have been one of those that's like, it's heritage, not hate. I drove around with a Confederate flag plastered on the back of my vehicle. I was proud of it. I have it permanently right here unless I can do something about it eventually. And I want to. I want to so bad. Even if you're still not convinced and you still think that this flag and these monuments and all this, like, they're just about heritage and it's not about hate, you have to realize at this point you've lost it. You've lost the symbol. These white supremacists, these KKK, these neo-Nazis, alt-right, whatever you want to call them, they've taken it over. Like, even if you think there's nothing wrong with it, now more than ever, if you have that, like, now when people see this, like, I didn't like this before what happened in Charlottesville, but now every time somebody sees it now, I'm going to feel like I'm on that side. And I can't blame people if they ponder that, if they think that about me. What side do you want to be on? Like, what are you fighting for? Really, if you're fighting to keep these monuments, you're fighting to keep that flag, what are you really fighting for? Is this really are those the symbols you want to represent, your love for where you live? I haven't been a lot of places in America, but I've been from Florida up to Wisconsin, which is where my wife is from, and as far west as Texas. You know, it's not a huge area, but I can tell you one thing: all those areas, north and south, and there's just some beautiful land, some beautiful places. Just be proud to be here in America. Just be proud to be alive. We don't, like, why are you proud to live below an imaginary line? It's ridiculous. And trust me, that's coming from the rebel. Okay? I'm telling you. It's ridiculous to have pride, to be proud that you live below a stupid imaginary line. What are you fighting for? You know, it's really ridiculous when you think about it. There's beauty everywhere. Just be proud to be alive. Be proud to be in this world. This tribalism, and this us versus them, and you know, I see on Facebook already like this happening, and people automatically just point fingers like, well, the left is just as bad, and Antifa and this and that. Well, yeah, Antifa. I'll agree with you there, right? But the time to say that isn't when we got KKK and neo-Nazis marching in our streets. That's not the time. Like right now, we need to be pointing our finger where the finger needs to be pointed. We need to come together. You know, we've got to come together. I don't care if you're on the right, you're on the left. We got to come together against that crap. You know, we can't have that. Not here. And I understand freedom of expression and all that. That's fine. And I'm not advocating violence, definitely. Like, I don't think the answer to that stupidity is for us to go out and be stupid, you know, as well. But it can't stand, and we gotta point these people out, and we gotta make them feel uncomfortable. You know, and I'll tell you one thing right now: defending those symbols is not making those people uncomfortable. Defending those symbols is making them feel like you're on their side. Do you want to be on their side? You know, I know I don't. And I'm going to be regretting this more. You know, I talked to my wife about this like a long time ago. And at first she was kind of like, you sure that's what you want to do? Because I want to find a way to cover it up. Or, you know, I definitely can't afford the laser surgery, so and it's so big, I don't know how I cover it up, but I want to do that. And then all this happens, and now it's just like I wish I could just cut it off right now. It makes me sick. But guys, I appreciate you listening to me. Just kind of get this all off my chest, and I'm gonna go. You can subscribe to my channel if you like. Hit the like button. All the other stuff. You can email me if you have something you want to say in private. It's joe.therebelsadvocate@gmail. It's joe.therebelsadvocate@gmail. And also you can follow me on Twitter at @thejoestillwell. It's the JOESTILWELL. And I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you next time.